Hello everyone out there in YouTube land. I'm the Scent Maven. Welcome back to my channel, Shopping and Scents. And so I'm back today with another movie review. So today I'm going to be talking about the Tom Hanks film, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, where he plays Mr. Rogers. Now, if you watch my channel, you know a couple of months back, I did a preview slash first impressions of the trailer of this movie. I was super excited to see it. I really, wanted to run to the theater when it first came out because like many people, I grew up watching Mr. Rogers and I was very excited that they were doing a biopic or what seemed to be a biopic on him. But I can tell you that I was very disappointed in this movie. I did not like it. I really didn't. And, critics loved it, and there are good parts to it and bad parts to it. So it got 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's doing well among critics. The reason that I didn't like this movie is because it's not about Mr. Rogers. That's the main thing that's wrong with it. So no spoilers, but the movie profiles, instead of Mr. Rogers, it talks about this reporter from Esquire magazine, Lloyd Vogel. I gotta look at my notes here. Lloyd Vogel from Esquire magazine, played by the actor Matthew Rhys. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, R-H-Y-S. Lloyd Vogel goes to interview Mr. Rogers for a piece he's doing, a puff piece, on heroes. Supposed to be a 400-word piece. So he typically does investigative, hard-hitting journalism, and he kind of resents the fact that his editor has given him this puff piece to write about Mr. Rogers. So anyway, he agrees to do it, and he goes and he meets Mr. Rogers to speak to him, and he meets him on multiple occasions. So the movie is about basically Lloyd Vogel, about the reporter and his cynical view on life and his family issues and his childhood issues and his problems with his dad and his mom passing away and all of these things that happened in his life. So the movie is only about Mr. Rogers really as he relates to the reporter and how the reporter learns to better his life through his meetings with Mr. Rogers. So there are a lot of segments of this movie that do not have Mr. Rogers in them, that just show the reporter and his disagreements with his dad and his issues with, being a father and the issues of, like he has a baby and a wife. And it talks about, all these issues that the reporter has, and basically how Mr. Rogers teaches him to be a better person. Okay. So the parts with the reporter by himself, just showing his life and him not interacting with Mr. Rogers, are very boring. I don't think the character was interesting at all. Of course, this is inspired by a true story. This is not to say that the real guy in real life is a bad guy or whatever, but I'm just going straight on the portrayal in the movie. He's not an interesting guy. I didn't think the actor did a very good job playing him. That's maybe why he came across as uninteresting. And the only good scenes are the scenes where he interacts with Mr. Rogers, and the scenes are always the same. It's always, here's Mr. Rogers as this saintly person, and no doubt he was a great person. So we have this saintly figure on one side, and then we have the disgruntled, very pessimistic, very glasses half empty kind of reporter, and how he and Mr. Rogers are together. So polar opposites. And Mr. Rogers always talks about how great the world is and how wonderful things are. And his response is always, are you for real? Is this a character you play on TV? So still very cynical until he learns that Mr. Rogers is actually the man that he was on TV. So, yeah. Now, the good parts about this movie, I will say that it's a really sad movie. There are a lot of emotional scenes in it. So bring your tissues. And I think Tom Hanks did a pretty good job playing Mr. Rogers. I wish he had been in the movie more. So I really was disappointed, and I give the movie a thumbs down. I do. I really wanted to like it. And the other thing that I really did not like about the movie is how, you know how in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, on the TV show that was on PBS, Channel 13, I don't know, depending on where you live, or, or lived when it was on. Although they may rerun it now, I don't even know. So Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, you know how the opening scene is a miniatures of the neighborhood. It's like a model of the neighborhood, and it's all little housing miniatures. So in this movie, they go into the model, right? And so then even when they leave Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, it's hard to explain. It's like when they open up the scene in New York where you're going to meet the reporter for the first time, you're seeing New York as a miniature model, It was very weird, like how they want to show, so the movie was supposed to be in a way like an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Here's the neighborhood, only it's like New York, and here we're going to zoom in, and then it opens up into like the real world. And then sometimes we'll zoom out and it'll be the model again. I just didn't go for the whole thing. And there's a very, I think one of the stupidest scenes in the whole movie has to be when the reporter has a nightmare, daydream, whatever you want to call it, that he's inside Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and he's talking to the puppets and the lady Sarah. I forget what her name is in the show. It's just ridiculous. So, yeah. I wouldn't go see it. But I know a lot of you are going to be tricked by the trailer, as I was, and you're going to want to go see it anyway because you're not going to believe me. But it was pretty bad. Because there's not enough Tom Hanks greatness as Mr. Rogers in this movie to make it a great movie. So what would I recommend that you do? First of all, I recommend not spending $16.95 to go watch it on a Saturday or a Sunday when there's no matinee. If you insist on going to see it, I would say catch the matinee. You'll thank me later. If you want to thank me more, wait till it comes out on DVD or catch it on Netflix, because it's just not worth seeing. What do I recommend that you do besides that? There is a documentary on the actual Mr. Rogers that came out about a year prior to this film that I talked about in my previous video when I talked about the trailer for this movie. And the documentary is called Won't You Be My Neighbor? You can rent it, watch it on YouTube. I forget how much I paid for it. I think I paid $19.99 last year when I bought it on YouTube. I went to look back to see how much I purchased it for. It doesn't say. I don't know if you can rent it, because sometimes YouTube gives you the option of either buying or renting. When I went to view it, it was only for sale. So I don't know what it is now. So you could check it out on YouTube and see if it's rent or buy, whatever you want to do. Or you can go on Amazon. I checked. The DVD of Won't You Be My Neighbor is $12.97. So $12.97 if you want to purchase it on Amazon and get the actual physical DVD. So go watch Won't You Be My Neighbor and learn about the real Mr. Rogers, the real guy, if you really want to know about him. If you want any insight into Mr. Rogers and the show and everything, you're not going to get it from A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It reveals very, very little about Mr. Rogers, about how the show came to be, about him as a person. It's only Mr. Rogers' view on life as he needs to share it with this reporter so that the reporter can fix his own life. yeah, so I was very upset. I don't want to say very upset, but I was very disappointed in this movie. So I'm going to make this a short review, and I'm going to say again, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood gets a thumbs down from me. As much as I love Tom Hanks, as much as I think he did a great job as Mr. Rogers, I just think he couldn't save this movie. So, have you seen the movie? Have you seen the Tom Hanks version? Have you seen the documentary version? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. So that's going to do it for this video. Remember to comment, rate, subscribe. And until next time, goodbye everyone out there in YouTube land. Or should I say, goodbye neighbors.